So there you were, Oliver, toiling away in your cowshed in Kent. Did you ever wish that you'd boned up on the art of animation first?
No. No, absolutely not. The art which I had was how to make films for £10 a minute for the television, which was hungry for whatever it could get. And some of the early films have the worst animation you've ever seen in your life. But it doesn't matter because the stories are nice.
And what about the conditions that you were making these films? I mean, you weren't in some rarefied, air-conditioned studio here.
I was in a total mess. I've always worked in a total mess anyway. I built the animation table myself. It wasn't air-conditioned, it was anything but air-conditioned. It was a slightly enlarged pigsty. And in winter-time I had this coke stove which belched forth fumes, and in the summer it became intolerably hot, and I was moving the engine frame by frame along with a sharpened screwdriver and clicking the button and so on, and then the sweat would be running down my hands and I had to wear little bands around my wrists to stop it running down onto the artwork. I had a very brightly lit table, and the flies would just land in the middle of the picture, you know, and I'd be going along quite happily filming, no sort of blue bottle wandering about. So for a tenth of a second there's a blue bottle wandering across the picture, and I would have to reshoot the whole shot, or else leave it in, because nobody noticed.
I'm very interested in how you engage children. I mean, do you basically think children are little eccentrics?
I had no idea about the children. Never gave them a thought. Having an infantile mind, I liked the ideas. I mean, Ivor the engine, the Welsh engine that wants to sing in the choir. I mean, it had overtones of Dylan Thomas, it had overtones of all sorts for grown-ups, and also it was an amusing story for the children at the same time. But the point about it was, if you did things solely intended for the kiddie-winks, you were insulting them, because children, I believe, learn by picking up fag ends. You know, they want to be round the edges of adult life and pick things up.
Tell me about your fifth piece of music.
Oh, well, I suppose I'll have to take something with me to remind me of all those years I spent pushing bits of card along with a pin. But all the pieces of music were composed for me by Vernon Elliott. And like all of them, this one goes with a picture, which I'll tell you about. It comes from the saga of Noggin and the Ice Dragon, and the Nogs are settling down to sleep in a high valley. But Graculus, the great green bird, is disturbed. He looks out and knows that behind the mountains there is a lake with green trees around it, and there are fish, blue fish. He also knows that he has never been there since he was hatched. But Noggin says, "Go and see, for perhaps your egg remembers what it never saw, and there you will find your home."
Graculus's memory music from Noggin the Nog, performed by the Vernon Elliott Ensemble. In 1974, then, Oliver, you made 13 episodes of a new series about a saggy old cloth cat.
So we did, yes.
Called Bagpuss. Did you
Yes.
know you were making a hit?
No idea. Neither of us had. Peter had intended Bagpuss to be an Indian Army cat somewhere above Pune in the children's hospital where he would tell stories to children. And I said, I'm not having a studio full of children. I can handle puppets, but not children. So he decided to live in the window of Emily's shop. And we found that the key to it was the fact that each time Emily brought something home, it gave us the inspiration for its story. So I can remember taking a pink elephant without any ears to Peter and dumping it down in front of him and saying, well, what is the story of this? And that would provide the sort of seed for the originality, you see. Other stories I've had to pull out of the sky completely from nothing, you know. But now there was a pink elephant to start it with, you see.
How were things in your real life around about that time? Because this was the sort of early to mid-70s. Were they safe and reasonable times?
Anything but. My parents both died within weeks of each other, and suddenly I was out on my own. I hadn't realised the extent to which, when I went in my imaginary world, I left my father in charge of the real world. Suddenly he was no longer there as a referee, and I realised I was having to think about the world, the real world, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all, and I was tremendously frightened of the winter of discontent, when the miners were fighting political doctrinaire battles with Edward Heath government and so on. And I had been in Germany during the Große Knappheit, during the 1947 Cold Winter, and I'd known that a civilization could collapse, and I got really frightened. And I forced myself onto Women's Hour at the BBC. I walked in one day and said, I want to do an election broadcast on behalf of the poor bloody electors. So they said, yes, all right, do it. And if the gods let us play it, they will, and they did.
This anxiety that you had, that the world, the real world, the world that you couldn't control was going to collapse, is that... Are you generally somebody who carries anxiety with them through what they do?
Well, it's not my own anxiety. The world is so damn stupid that it is going to collapse if I'm not careful. And I keep trying to do things about it, but it doesn't happen. It doesn't work.
This is a world, though, so at odds with the professional world that you inhabit. This, as you've described it, this very safe, comfortable, contained, predictable world. Are you ever envious of that world, the world that you're able to create in all its minutiae in front of the camera?
Oh, I would move back into one of my created worlds very happily, but you're offering to do that for me today. I'm looking forward to it.
So you and your wife, Prue, had 3 children together, along with the 3 children that she brought
That's
to
right.
marriage. I mean, given your own insecure childhood, how adequate did you feel at making all these children feel secure and giving them a good childhood?
Prue had never entertained that aspect of my life, which was that I wasn't sure that I was going to succeed. She knew perfectly well I was going to succeed and hadn't time to be bothered with any other ideas. And I went along with this, and it was true for a while. And
do you think that Prue knew that that was the attitude she had to have in order to make you cope?
I think it's very probable that she did. She was a very subtle lady, and the effect of falling in love with her was to make me feel able to do absolutely anything, you know. It's a marvellous feeling.
In 1978, she was diagnosed with cancer, and you were told at that time that she wouldn't have long to live, but in fact she did live years after.
We did. We managed to wrestle another 4 years from the gods. No, I remember she came to me and said, look, I'm terribly sorry, I've got cancer. And I remember thinking, it's not something to be sorry about. Well, to be sorry, yes, but, I mean, not to apologise for, you know. And it was a difficult time because she was suffering very badly from manic depression at the same time, so she was either on top of the world or completely down, and I discovered that I couldn't put myself aside from it. I didn't want to. I went down with her, and when she was really manic, I just had to hide sometimes because it didn't make sense, but other times I was there to help. It was a happy time on a certain level.
When she was dying in 1982, she gave you, I mean, what a lot of people might consider to be an unusual message, which was, after she was gone, not to mourn her, not to live your life mourning her.
Yes. We'd had our last year and we mourned together, you know, as best we could. And she said, don't be a celibate, you know. Don't keep faith with me. She said, get out and get on with it. And I did. But I made a complete fool of myself because I didn't know any of the rules of romantic behaviour, and all sorts of mistakes were made, some of which wake me up in the middle of the night curling with embarrassment. But eventually I met Naomi, who was a historian who worked for the cathedral in Canterbury, and we became close friends and eventually lovers, and are now together very happily, 20 years nearly now.
In saying that to you, Prue said what many people are unable to say. That shows a remarkable generosity of spirit.
I think it was, yes, it was. It was also because we had so long to face the facts, you see. My mother, you see, some years before had committed suicide because she was fed up with life after my father died, and we were deeply, profoundly grieved by this because she didn't tell us. She sent us away for the weekend to our cottage in Wales, and she was still alive when I got back, but I said to the doctor at the hospital, don't bring her round, she will be furious if you do. She didn't want to go on, so being an ancient Greek, not anything else, she took her pills and vanished, and that was her right, and nobody said she was making any mistake there, but it was just the suddenness of it.
So you entirely respected her decision?
Utterly, and I would do the same myself.
So you're not enjoying a quiet retirement, exactly?
No! The one thing I dread, the moment everything goes quiet, I begin to sink like a stone. Naomi says the same as Prue, you only get yourself a project.
You have grandchildren, of course, from your marriage.
Yes.
Are you a doting grandfather?
No, indeed, absolutely not. I am the remains of a working machine, and I still work. And what I hate about old age is this tremendous lack of time and skill. I take twice as long to do everything I used to do, and I do it wrong now and have to do it again, and I get furiously angry with myself because I've lost so many of my faculties, but nevertheless I keep on doing it, and in the end it gets done. People say to me, why don't you lie back on your laurels? And I say, what would I bloody do if I lay back on my laurels? They're prickly. And my children, thank goodness, have got used to it now, and they come to me when they want to talk about something important, but the idea of being a doting article of furniture around the edges is, they've given that ambition up now.
You don't seem to have much of an idea how much you are adored in terms of what you have created for people.
Yes, because I was the machine, I was the mechanism, I was the means by which, you said I'm a verb, not a noun, I'm a means for doing it. People say to me, I enjoyed that Bagpuss film tremendously, the one about the Hamish. I said, yes, did you see the Mouse Mill? That was good as well. They think, he's a big-headed bastard, they think. But it's not, it has nothing to do with me. It's a thing, it exists in its own right.
But I don't think people do think at all that you're big-headed. People think, how remarkable, he thought of that, he narrated it, he made it beautiful, he enlivened my childhood. I don't think people
But
think
he doesn't hesitate to admire it himself, and that's well,
not why
English.
shouldn't you?
Oh, no, that's being logical, but it's not the English thing. You do, you are modest about it, you know, and say, oh, well, I was lucky or something, you know. But I look back on the things I've done and I enjoy them. It doesn't nourish me. I want to go and do something else.
Do you appreciate that what you've done, what you've created, is a very singular, particular voice that has spoken to so many children so significantly?
I'm told that this is so, yes, but it doesn't work. It hasn't got rid of the witch's gift I received when I was very, very young, which was that everything you do is essentially chancy and wrong. You should have settled down and learned a trade.
It seems terrible that those seeds of self-doubt that were so deftly sown by your childhood have not been unearthed and thrown away by the achievements.
No, they are the driving force of the achievement.
So you have to keep them.
I wouldn't have done any of these things if I hadn't needed to keep doing things to prove that I existed. I mean, I regard it as an illness. I regard it as a personality fault that I'm able to do these things. I'm delighted to be able to do the things, and the things that please me now tremendously when I see them.
So, of course, we give you, Oliver, the Bible and the complete works of Shakespeare, and you're allowed to take another book. What would yours be?
I would like a huge book of all English poetry, because I never gave it enough time in my life, and I regretted that, so I could spend a lot of time looking through and enjoying the things I've missed.
And your luxury, of course, you're allowed something to make this desert island of yours a little more bearable.
I would like a comfortable bed.
We'll allow you that.
Very devoted to that, yes.
Now, when it comes to the music, if the records were to be washed away and you had to run to save one of them, which would it be?
I think I would need to settle for When the Saints Come Marching In, because you never know, they might.
Oliver Postgate, thank you very much for letting us hear your Desert Island Discs.
Thank you for letting me talk about them.